Today is day 3 of organized demonstrations in Ferguson and St. Louis. Good evening, I'm Michael Doudna.
And I'm Brittany Pieper. Thanks for joining us. It has been 2 months since the shooting of unarmed 18-year-old black man by a police officer, and protesters are still not backing down. NBC's Ron Allen reports.
Columbia police are investigating a shots fired incident that happened downtown early this morning. Police say a man was shot, but they haven't yet identified the shooter. Officers arrived at East Broadway around 1:30 a.m. and found a cartridge casing. Sergeant Bob Dockler said a man with a gunshot wound arrived at University Hospital a short time later, but would not tell officers how he had been shot. During the investigation, officers say they searched the vehicle that took the victim to the hospital and found a bullet in the floorboard. Authorities are still looking for the suspect. Anyone with information about the incident should call the Columbia Police Department or Crime Stoppers at the numbers on your screen. The University of Missouri and Three Rivers College in Poplar Bluff will be splitting more than $1 million as a result of an agreement over a dead man's estate. Attorney General Chris Koster announced the settlement on Friday in a statement. It's unclear what the two campuses will use the $1.5 million for. The proceeds come from the sale of the land belonging to James Adams of Piedmont. Students and staff at Williams Woods University held a camp for local kids this afternoon to raise money for a school in South Africa. Kids Who Care allowed mid-Missouri kids to learn about horses, make crafts, and even learn about important figures tied to South Africa like Nelson Mandela and Jane Goodall. On top of raising money for the school, students are also volunteering to help pay their way to visit in just a few months. The man who leads the trip says it's important for students to see what else is out there. Tamara says a group of about 40 students will go to South Africa in March. Last year, students were able to go to Greece and Turkey. The art community celebrated 55 years of the Boone County Art Show this weekend. Boone County National Bank hosted the show by the Columbia Art League. Event organizers say about 600 people came by. Professional and non-professional artists submitted work to be displayed at the Boone County National Bank. The Art League displayed nearly 200 pieces, many of which ended up being sold. The league's director said the first show started because of a day very much like today.
We've worked together for over half a century, and in the beginning it started because it was an art show outside the bank in 1959, and it was raining, and so the bank president came out and said to the artists, why don't you come into the lobby so you don't get wet, and that was kind of how the whole thing started.
The show wrapped up this afternoon.
You know, I'm not a big fan of cold weather, but this is the kind of cold that I can get on board with. You know,
Really?
It's just enough to need a little bit of a jacket, sweater weather.
I mean, I would agree with you, but the cloud cover, it's just depressing. It's a little sad every
I just
day.
wish this is how it stayed like through November, December, January, February.
We'll try our best. We'll see what happens.
All right, thanks, Amanda. A member of the medical team that treated the first patient diagnosed with Ebola in the United States is now fighting the deadly disease.
She was admitted to the same isolation unit inside a Texas hospital where she had been working. Now she's a patient fighting for her own life. NBC's Jay Gray has the very latest now from Dallas. The woman infected has been self-monitoring her by checking her temperature twice daily. There are at least 18 other hospital employees still following that procedure. A patient in the Boston area was placed in isolation with symptoms similar to those associated with Ebola. Health officials say a man entered Harvard Vanguard Medical Associates complaining of a headache and muscle pain. He also told them he had recently traveled to Liberia. The patient was isolated as a precaution and then taken by ambulance to Israel Deaconess Medical Center in Boston. The doctor's office he visited initially was temporarily closed. Hundreds of thousands of Syrian refugees are settling down tonight.
We'll take you inside one of the temporary camps set up in Turkey.
Hundreds of thousands of Syrian refugees are settling down in Turkey as winter is quickly approaching the region. More than 200,000 refugees from Syria, from the Syrian town of Kobani have settled in Kaikara, which is located just across the Syrian border. The town has been the center of intense fighting between ISIS forces, Syrian rebels, and Kurdish forces. Some refugees have found a temporary home at refugee camps, while others have built structures out of mud. Good news out of Cairo for residents of the Gaza Strip after several countries pledged billions of dollars towards rebuilding the war-torn country at the end of an international conference. Now, the wealthy Middle Eastern country of Qatar promised $1 billion to Gaza. The U.S. and the United Arab Emirates each said they'd donate at least $200 million. However, Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas says the country needs at least $4 billion to recover from their war with Israel. The Cardinals were shut out last night by the Giants in Game 1 of the NLCS.
Tonight, they are hoping to win to avoid falling 2 games behind in that series. We'll have an update next in sports.